Attention all patriots, it's time for the Signal 50 podcast, where we talk about the hard truth about today's current events.
Welcome to the Signal 50 podcast. It is May 16th, 2021. And on tonight's episode, we're gonna move it along really fast, and we're sorry we haven't been around for the last couple of weeks. Lots of stuff going on. I was just able to get my life back together digitally, and my co-host, my friend, my confidant, Bravo, was off for a little bit of rest and relaxation, so good for you.
Thank you. It was nice to be away, although we'll talk a little bit about my observations while I was away. But it was good to get out of here. I mean, it's nice to see people getting out again.
Yeah. That's really nice. So tonight we're going to be talking about a number of different topics. We've picked four of the top hitters of the week. I've been a little bit sequestered, not really, a little bit heads down, but I think we can cover the bases here this evening. So we're going to talk a little bit about taxes. Your taxes are due, peasants. Better get your taxes in.
They gave you an extension from April. Usually April 15th is the magic day, right? But they pushed it back to today or tomorrow. Sorry.
I know this is a very sore topic for a lot of people out there, and I hate to rub it in, and I hate to do it, but we have to talk about taxes. So we'll be talking a little bit about taxes, and we'll be moving along, and we're going to talk a little bit about the conflict, unfortunately, that's ongoing in Gaza right now. It's pretty ugly. It's pretty ugly.
100 days beforehand, we had peace. We had all kinds of peace going on, and
here we are.
Flick of the switch, bam,
and here we are. So we're going to move along. After that, we're going to talk a little bit about masks and the latest CDC guidance as of last week, and the impacts there, and what we think of that. And we're going to be also discussing what's going on in Maricopa County for the audit. Or recount, as some people like to say, of the.
It's actually an audit, technically.
Yeah, it's an audit.
It's like the IRS. It's a proctology exam.
Oh my God!
They're examining every single ballot, which is nice. We'll get into that too.
Right.
Just remember, everyone, we're the two American patriots. We're all here to talk about the current events and how it affects us, the peasants from the elites.
That's right. The Wokatarians are in command of the boat. So, anyhow, let's talk a little bit about taxes. I don't know about you, but I'm left with an empty, hollow feeling after signing those returns here a couple of weeks ago and getting those wrapped up.
Well, don't you love doing it all electronically, but you still have to sign something. And if you owe something, like I had to, you have to send in your check or money order made out to the government,
or they can just drain your bank account.
Yeah, I don't want. I can't go that far yet. You know what the interesting thing is, though, Alpha. I the feeling of where the money goes and how it's wasted and how why do I have to pay them? It just bothers me to the all ends, especially after paying taxes for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember my first job when I was 16.
Oh yeah.
And they took money out of our account, and then it's just they take more and more and more, and they don't deserve it. They're not doing what they should. We want them to do with it, and I think that's why we're all here talking about it, because our rights are being shot to hell.
Well, I'll never forget. My first pay job. Mm-hmm. Aside from a few mowing lawns and a few other things that kids do, family work and those kinds of things. I was a dish. My first pay job. Mm-hmm. I was 16 years old. I got a job at the Ponderosa Steakhouse. Does anybody remember Ponderosa Steakhouse?
I do. It was kind of a cool place.
Yeah, it was all right. It was the ultimate in schlock at the time, and it still would be. I think there's like one that exists in the world. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, I remember getting my first paycheck and my first pay stub, and I sat down with my dad and I looked at it and I said, "Hey, Dad, here's my first paycheck." And he was very proud of me for making a paycheck. And I says to him, "What is this FICA guy? Who is this FICA guy?"
I had the same question when I had my first.
Exactly. And he says to me, "Son, now you understand why I'm upset most of the time."
There you have it. You learn it. You learn the hard way. I think, especially nowadays when people start working and they understand where their money, they can understand where their money's going. I think that's the important part. Drives everyone crazy.
Well, right. It does. And the problem being is the government has become so big and so overbearing and so all encompassing. It's like a machine that just devours and feeds off of every working individual in this country. And yes, I understand that we have to pay something, taxes, a user tax or a VAT tax or a flat tax would probably be a lot more tolerable. And they would see that it would eliminate a lot of the loopholes. And they say, the rich need to pay their fair share. Well, I got news for you. The rich do pay their fair share in a number of different ways. The rich need to pay more money. Well, I got news for you. The ultra rich in this country stay rich because they can afford the high powered accountants and attorneys to find every little loophole that was ever left for them by people like Pocahontas. What's her name? Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren. Yes,
that's right. So she's part of that machine too. But taxes are it's just a tough time of year. Everybody hates it. It's just the worst. It's just the worst. And I've got some bad news for people out there in the world, and this needs to be said. And I'm going to rub salt in the wound here a little bit on some people that might be listening. And I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, but all of these people that over the last 18 months who've been collecting this enhanced unemployment, everybody realizes that that's taxable income, right?
I don't know if they were told that when they got it, but...
Well, I think they make it pretty clear that you can be taxed on the income, right? So a lot of people, because they're not working and it's a little difficult to make ends meet, or they're just taking advantage of those big dollars that are coming in over and above what they would normally make anyways, elected not to have any taxes removed from those payments. The bill is due. The bill is due, and it's going to be a rude awakening for a lot of people.
Now, you're talking about the stimulus payments, like those taxed?
No, the stimulus payments, to the best of my knowledge, are not taxable. But on your income tax form, it'll ask you how much you were paid in the first stimulus, second stimulus, and third. And if you meet a certain income criteria, because they didn't calculate off your 2020s yet, or it was just a little weird the way that it worked out and the way the payments fell out in 21 here. If you report the amount of money that you were paid in the stimulus, okay, and your income meets the criteria for receiving more money, you'll get what's called a credit. And they'll make up the difference between that in your refund. So you will be getting the money if you meet certain criteria. But it's not taxable income.
Not like unemployment insurance or
Correct.
The unemployment money.
That's right.
$600 to that if you're furloughed or anything like that. And that, of course, is taxable.
Right.
That's all taxable.
Well, it's all taxable income. You get a 1099-G, I believe it is, on that income. And if you don't pay those taxes, you've got a serious problem.
Because the IRS doesn't take "I didn't know" as an excuse.
Nope, they sure don't. But enough about taxes. Your tax dollars at work. We're still paying AOC's salary and Maxine Waters so she can steal the federal marshals off of one plane to get them on hers to go to the Chauvin thing. But that's another story for another time. So anyhow, we're roughly 100 days or so. 100 days.
Yeah.
We're a few days short of 100 days of a new presidency here. And, as much as we don't really appreciate Joe Biden's politics or him as a human being or anything about him, you generally don't want to root against the captain that's, driving the boat, right? It's kind of a bad idea.
That's hard for me to...
Yeah, I'm just trying to play it cool, right? Because you just want to hope for the best and be optimistic that these people are going to do the right thing. So,
expect the worst, hope for the best.
Yeah, right. Hope for the best and prepare for the worst. Exactly. So,
I'm a pessimist, my friend, sometimes. And
oh, we all are pessimists. We become pessimists over the last 6 years, whether we wanted to or not. You're 96 days into a new presidency, and you had somebody who was literally Hitler.
mm,
According to the wokeitarians on the left hand side of the aisle and those radical idiots,
mhm.
Trump was literally Hitler. Meanwhile, he did his level best to keep us, to try to make the Middle East a much safer place.
Mm-hmm.
And the world is really on fire.
Oh, it's on fire, and no lack of oxygen or fuel to keep that fire going.
No, this is what's going on in Israel right now is a very, very bad situation. It's a very bad situation, and the tragic part about the whole thing is no matter what the Israelis do, they're screwed.
Yep.
They're screwed. In the eyes of the world, they're always going to be the big bad guy.
Well, that's if you look at why. But let's ask the question: why? Why are the Israelis screwed? Why are they looked at upon as bad guys? Well, first, I'm going to point my finger at Omar plus Occasional Cortex plus Talib plus anyone else that calls themselves progressive Democrat and are acting like a bunch of anti-Semitic, not nice people. And that's let's just call it the way it is. They are rooting against Israel. They are propping up those Palestinians, which really isn't even a country. Gotta be honest with you. There's nothing in the Bible that talks about Palestine. And it's a propped up, made up reason to try and derail Israel. That is my opinion, everyone. This is just my opinion. And Israel is not allowed to defend itself. Meanwhile, anything that they do is damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Right. At the end of the day, their object is to protect their citizens. There's only 14.5 million Jews left on the face of the planet, and 9 million of them live in Israel, or 12, or 10. No, I think only 10 million. So they have to do what they have to do. I've been everywhere in Israel. I've had the privilege in my life to travel all the way from Beersheba all the way north to Kiryat Shmona on the Lebanese border. I've been on the Syrian border. I've been on, down near the Egyptian border near Gaza. And I've been in the Negev and the Dead Sea. I've been everywhere in Israel.
So have I, by the way.
Oh, cool.
I have to. Yep.
I spent beautiful country.
Lots of culture, lots of history.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Awesome place.
Awesome place. And the funny thing is the Muslims that integrate into the Israeli society are they're equals. They serve in the IDF. They are property owners. They are scholars, and they're doctors, and they're lawyers, and they're tech people. It's a melting pot of people that just want to get along, right?
And they're represented in the Knesset or their house or their their representative house. That's what they call it, the Knesset. They're represented there. They have a vote. They can vote for a prime minister. They can vote for everything.
That's right. They're citizens. That's it. Full stop. Okay. Word to the wise for the audience out there: do not try to understand Israeli politics. Just please don't do it. You'll give yourself a migraine, and you'll probably have a drinking problem.
Well, they're modeled after England and that kind of parliamentary kind of government. So everyone has a vote, everyone has a say. So that's where you get all these different groups, and it's not like the winner takes all like we hear in America. That's a brief overview of how it works.
Yeah, and it gets very confusing. You know the old expression, I work with a lot of Israelis, I know a lot of Israelis. You put 20 Israelis in a room and you're going to have 100 different opinions.
Hmm.
So it's just it's just the way it is. Israelis are very hardworking, industrious, conscientious, humanitarian people, okay? Before they drop a bomb, they make sure they understand the target. They understand the collateral consequences. They go ahead and they drop leaflets. They make phone calls. They send text messages. They do everything that you don't do in an act of warfare to the enemy. That they do. They announce when it's going to happen.
Hmm.
So there's no surprises here, right?
Yeah.
So the Hamas strategy and playbook is to use people and their civilians as human shields.
Hmm.
And it's really awful. It's just absolutely terrible what they do. Um,
Oh, by the way, and they have this underground hidden
oh yes,
tunnel network, right?
yes,
Where they send people into Israel, and people at night will be killed. We won't get into graphic detail how it's done, but it's not nice.
no,
It's very violent, and they'll
yes,
come into their homes while they're sleeping and kill them. This is the Hamas terrorists. They will go into Jews, Arabs too, I believe. They don't discriminate,
no. They just
but they
don't
rather
care
go.
anyway.
They do talk about killing Jews more than they,
Just
but they'll go into people's houses and
yeah.
terrorists. It's terrible.
Just remember this. Just keep this in the back of your head. Every year, the United States sends a lot of money to the Palestinian Authority. Trump wasn't doing it,
Hmm.
but Biden turned that back on. So just remember that we are paying for these people to build terror tunnels to go kill Israeli citizens.
Yep.
Awesome, huh? That's where the money goes, people. It's not to the betterment of the people behind the wall in the Gaza Strip or the West Bank. It's to support a terror organization like Hamas. Where do all the weapons come from? Do you think they're free? No, they're not free.
No, but it goes to Iran, who pays for it all.
Right. Look, everybody can just go check it out. This has been going on for days. The Iron Dome system has been protecting people, doing a damn fine job. They're not going to be able to catch everything that comes over the wire, but they're going to be able to do quite a lot.
Yep.
They just overwhelm the system, and that's just the way it works. That's warfare 101. Overwhelm your enemy. It's pretty amazing what the Israelis have been able to do.
Mm-hmm.
And their tactics in warfare are very interesting. They lined everybody up on the outside, a couple of divisions of Israeli soldiers, their armor brigades, tanks, and their Namir troop transports, and they got ready and they made them look like they were getting ready for a ground invasion. So all the Hamas terrorists came out through the tunnels to get ready to launch Coronet missiles and RPGs against the armor and to go ahead and engage the Israeli infantry that was going to invade.
And do all their terrorist bad things.
Well, engage in direct warfare.
Mm-hmm.
What wound up happening was, they all popped out of their little tunnels and it was a ruse. And the Israelis dropped a lot of bombs on them. Yep. And by my understanding, they've crippled Hamas's ground forces greatly.
So they got them all into one place, lured them into a place where knew where they were.
Yep.
This is amazing. This is the intelligence of the IDF. I think I'm sure the Americans had some way of helping them out, but they knew exactly where they were.
They don't need our help.
Okay.
They don't need our help. Trust me. They
dropped enough ordnance to light up their life and go right, to hell. And that's what happened.
Well, that's play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So, we're going to end the story with this. And everybody out there who really wants to argue about the Israel-Palestinian, kind of thing, just remember this, okay? Let me ask you a question. As a reasonable human being, Bravo, if the Palestinians or the people in Gaza and the West Bank, Palestinians, Jordanians, whatever these people are, whatever they want to call themselves, if they were to lay down their arms, commit themselves to a life of nonviolent productivity and living in harmony with their neighbors Israel,
Mm-hmm.
would their lives improve or would they not?
It would improve.
Okay, let me ask you another question. If the Israelis laid down their arms, put away all the weaponry, and dedicated themselves to pacifism and a life of peace and no engagement, would their lives improve or deteriorate?
They would be ended
Correct.
and
So you
wiped
have to
off the face of the earth.
ask yourself those two questions. I'm here. I know numerous people that live there. There's no animus towards these people. It's just everybody says the same thing. I really wish that these people would just embrace the olive branch we've tried to hand them time and time again.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon because they're driven by ideology and spurred on by promises that are the Hamas are pawns of the Iranians. I'm going to be, again, this is my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The information that is piped into their feeble brains when they're young, that Israel's bad, Jews are bad, they just keep repeating it over and over and over again.
Yep.
And that's all they know. Then that's all these kids grow up to do violence, and that's all they know. So until the parents or the people that are up, stop believing this nonsense from the Iranians being piped into their kids' brains and them too, I don't think anything's going to change although it looked pretty positive there 100 days ago. And knowing
really
did. And knowing that my tax dollars are going to this nonsense instead of peace deals that we had, I lost count how many there were going on right before the election occurred. And what's more unconscionable to me is the fact that representatives, senators, they're all jumping up and down and coming down hard on Israel for defending themselves. When Alpha, as well as I do, if they were lobbing missiles at my house from a border somewhere,
oh yeah,
we would not be waiting to get someone's permission to stomp back. So Tlaib and all those morons can take it and shove it. I don't care. Israel has every right to defend themselves, in my opinion. And I hope to goodness that they continue to do so, because Israel is the beacon of light in that area as a true democracy.
That's right.
Like we are.
It's a very interesting place. It's not our model of democracy, but it's as close as you're going to get in the Middle East, and they seem to make it work very well. So,
yeah.
Look,
and I hate to, and Mark Levin was talking about this also. Mark Levin said that people that hate Israel, hate the United States, hate our way of life.
Yeah.
And the people that are up there jumping up and down, showing their disgust and their outrage, false outrage, by the way, towards Israel for defending themselves, hate America too. So, and Mark Levin said that any of those representatives that are still, spouting all this nonsense off should take a visit over there and see really what it's all about. They haven't been there, but they're going to comment on it because it's their political narrative.
It's amazing. It's just amazing to me how any American Jew can follow along with these people's ideology. It just absolutely blows my mind. Listen, I think we've said enough here, and there's one thought I want to leave with. I think that everybody, if I don't say this lightly, there's innocent people here on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Israeli citizens, and that's another thing I want to talk about here real quick, and then we're going to wrap it up. These people in the West Bank and Gaza, they're launching weapons against Israeli citizens. It's nothing to do with the military conflict.
Correct.
They are launching weapons of mass destruction. These are big-ass rockets that they're sending over there that can kill a lot of people and cause a lot of damage. They're not playing patty cake anymore. These aren't 60-millimeter mortars. This is big stuff,
Mhm.
and it's really frightening. And there's innocent people that are being attacked, and on the other side, you've got a group of people, Hamas. They're using innocent people as shields, and unfortunately, in this situation, the people that pay are always the innocents on both sides. So I think it would be a good idea for everybody to put their head down and give a thought and keep Israel and even the people. They're I would have to say that about 95 to 96% of the people in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank are just people. They're
Yep.
just like, oh my God, would this please just stop?
Yep.
So,
And I think Knuckle Cakes sums it up very nicely.
yes, he does. He's
So, thank you, sir,
intuitive.
for your
He's an
comments.
intuitive young man and a damn
Yes.
handsome fella.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
Okay.
indeed.
All
So,
right.
enough said about that. So let's move along a little bit here. So you had your immersive experience in demasking.
I did.
Tell us all about your experience.
Well,
Bravo.
it didn't start out that way. And
No, it didn't. But tell us how it got there.
so for the first time in 14 months, the family and I went on vacation, went to some place a little warm, got out of the house for once. Understand the rules. The rules were they want you to wear masks outside, inside the attractions. I don't want to give too much detail but you can guess. It's in a great state that's that's doing pretty well in terms of everyone's freedoms. But when you're on private property, again, the corporations or the private property or the business, you know, it's their house, their rules. That's what you do. So on the airplane, we wear our masks, and in between sips of beverage, you have to put your mask back up, take it back down. Got off the plane, didn't feel sick, was able to go on our trip. So these are big attraction type places, and they have lots of people. But one of the things we found with the people, the numbers, they were taking reservations that you had to have a reservation to go to the parks, these big parks that they have set up, and they're supposed to have limited capacity. They want to bring the numbers of people down, and you have to wear a mask outside. You have to wear a mask inside. Nose and mouth must be covered at all times. And the message kind of played on and on, saying, if you do not wear your mask, you'll be asked to leave. So they set their rules. Okay, got my mask on. It was the paper type. It can't be just a bandana or anything. It had to be your surgical mask, or you had to be N95 masks. That's the way their rules. And what policy, or where's the, where do they
wait
get?
a minute. Wait. These are arbitrary rules.
I was about to say where they get the data to support it.
It's arbitrary, but that's fine.
So, which we'll hold that off for 1 second here. So, we were there for a week, and it's kind of interesting. You can, you make faces at people, and you can keep your eyes still without, move your mouth around. They don't ever know that you're talking anything because they can't read your lips because the mask is over there. Anyway, makes people watching a little bit harder. But anyway, so we, nice trip, nice time away. So, it was very nice to be with the family. It's great. All of a sudden, the CDC comes out with their new rules. And they said, and Alpha, help me out here with this, because I'm still floored on trying to figure out how they came up with this all of a sudden.
Right.
They said, you don't need masks outside anymore if you're vaccinated, and you don't need masks on inside if you're vaccinated. Now, this is from the CDC. Okay. So this big park, this big area down there, said you don't need masks outside anymore, but you need masks inside, or if you're in a restaurant. I'm like, wait a minute. The CDC says you don't need masks if you're vaccinated, and you don't need masks inside or outside if you're vaccinated. But this big attraction is saying you need masks only if you're outside. But they were supposed to be limiting the number of people that are in these parks, but they actually admitted well, we were increasing the numbers every day, trying to increase, the the numbers, because they were noticing that there was no COVID zombies walking around their attractions. One other thing that I think is important to talk about. This is all my observations. Again, this is just what I'm kind of relaying from experiences.
We're not giving any medical advice here.
No medical advice, just my observations. People had it down around their nose, and then the people that are supposed to be involved in these rides and paying attention to safety and everything are playing mask police. Put your mask back up above your nose, please. Put your mask up above your nose, please. So I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And when you went around the corner in the line and they couldn't see you anymore, the mask went down. Like, this is great. Anyway.
Well, it's all just so arbitrary and just nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. So,
right.
So here's the question that I have, right?
Yeah.
So let me get this straight. Just help me understand, because I'm not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree. Are you obligated to share any kind of medical information for any kind of unofficial purpose?
No.
Are you obligated to?
Well, that's interesting. So remember what the CDC said, right? This was the guideline. Again, this is what the guidelines say. We're not giving any medical advice. The guideline says masks do not have to be worn outside or inside if you're vaccinated. Now, this big attraction, amusement park type area, said, well, you don't need masks outside, but you need masks on the inside, and restaurants and on the rides and everything else. I'm like, but how? What? I'm confused. Why? Again, why is a very powerful question, right? Why? What? How are you come up with this? What's going on here? I'm confused.
Right.
Now, to kick it all off, so we go through the whole week. We're following the rules. We're doing this thing. All of a sudden, CDC came out with these new guidelines, and the next day, the competing amusement park dropped the idea that you need a mask outside. Now walking around their parks outside. Meanwhile, we all know that ultraviolet radiation kills corona dead and activates it. We all know that, but I digress.
Yeah, especially where you were.
It was very sunny. I would just have to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is.
But on the inside of your rides and inside while you're moving at whatever on these roller coasters and these rides, again, you need masks on.
I just think the populations, pardon the French here. I know there's a person out there who doesn't particularly care for coarse language, but you know what? They can, whatever, take a deep breath, have a drink. I mean, what kind of shit is this?
Made up stuff, because on the last day they lifted that mandate because the other park did it.
Right.
So they matched it.
Absolutely.
Now, I have to say, I'm walking around the last day before we came home, and I'm walking around. Everyone has their mask down. Everyone's having a good time. Everyone's smiling. Everyone's enjoying themselves.
Right. And
again, I was like, how do we know they're vaccinated?
Exactly.
Who's vaccinated? Are you vaccinated? I mean, I can't go up to them and say, are you vaccinated? Should you have your mask on? Are you vaccinated? Again, none of my business. Okay.
Huh.
None of Disney's business. However, it's none of the government's business either. What we're told. But I put two and two together, and I have to say, if the government can't mandate these vaccine passports, which we all know that's what they're trying to do,
right?
Then let's have the private organizations, the private companies, the people that have some power over you. You want to come in our property? You want to go on these things? You want to have, the magic times of your life and everything else? You want to experience something that's fantasy or whatever? Follow our rules. And wait a minute.
Hold on.
Yeah.
So this leads to some very serious questions, right? And I'm sure we're not the only people that are putting out a podcast product that are they're asking this question. There's a little thing in this country. It's a pretty serious law with really serious penalties when it gets violated. It's called HIPAA,
Mm-hmm.
Patient Protection Act.
Yep.
Your private medical information is your private medical information, and you are not obligated to divulge it at all
That's correct.
to anybody.
Not even your employer.
That's right. Interesting.
But just like this new guideline, again, let's talk about the language for a second. Guideline, is that a regulation? Is that a law?
Nope.
No. Now, some of the places like in New York, in Maryland, and where you have to have masks on, those are regulations. They're not laws.
Right.
They're not passed by the assemblies or the state senates or the state delegate houses or whatever they call it for each state. It's different. That's a regulation. It's an edict. It's a policy.
Right.
That policy, if you're on the state's rules, grounds, depends on where you live. If you're in these open areas, and you have a governor that's pretty easygoing and understands that you have the rights to make the choices of your health and your freedom, they don't mandate masks. But
like heavy D.
Right. You go to Michigan, New York, Maryland, New Jersey, mask regulations are still in place despite what the guidelines say. So how come the CDC can put out there, you don't need to wear masks anymore, but the regulations are still in place? Again, I'm confused.
Well, so here's the thing. So if the CDC says you no longer have to wear masks indoors, outdoors, this condition, that, whatever, stop. Just stop. If you don't have to wear masks anymore, is it really a pandemic anymore? The answer is no. It's not. They're not seeing the numbers of people sick at all. It just isn't happening.
No. Now, the other thing, just
wait,
quickly,
I'm not done. Hold on one second.
Excuse me.
So where I live is a blue state with a red hat sitting in the governor's chair. Okay. Mm-hmm. Just a hat. The body looks like a penis. Hogan. He's absolutely pitiful. He's the worst. So here's the deal. The governor lifted all the mask, indoor, outdoor, all the regulations of social distancing, the capacity in the entire state. There's still a county in the state that said, nope, we are not going to do that. We are not going to allow these things. You must wear your masks. You must do these things. And they changed their name from the county council to the county board of health. Mm-hmm. And they've got an unelected official. His name is Travis Gales. He's calling the shots. This is the same clown who gives Zoom conferences from a moving car while he's driving.
Oh.
Yeah. What a clown. So it's over everywhere except, where they need to tyranny hard, and people here are starting to buck. So we'll see what happens. Right.
And just as a follow-up, so everyone had their masks off, everyone was happy. I gotta tell you, my neck hurts just the amount of movement it's been doing, because I cannot figure this out, why the guidelines are not helping policymakers give guidance the way it should be, because they're not medical providers.
Well, it's not policy. It's not regulation. It's nothing but control and propaganda at this point. And
you are correct, sir.
It all just needs to stop. So anyhow, we've churned the butter on that one just enough time. So let's talk about something a little bit more consequential, really. I think COVID's over. I think everybody can admit that COVID's over. Everybody that wanted a vaccine has already gotten it. And if you did, we're going to talk about that another time. Congratulations. Please don't tell me about your vaccine. People who talk about vaccines are like worse than vegans and CrossFitters. Okay.
Mhm.
And I don't want to hear about, and vegetarians. I just don't want to hear about it anymore. Keep your vaccine talk. Nobody cares. Okay, so something a little more consequential is, well, all this noise is going on. There's a lot of things going on. You've got Gaza, you've got the whole CDC thing and all the noise and the churn around that. You've got a gas shortage, which we should have talked about this evening, but pipelines are bad. Until you need to put gas in your car, you screaming liberals. Broccoli doesn't run cars. Okay, so we need that. But
Sunlight doesn't make electricity.
no, not really, not enough.
Not efficiently to
No,
enough to get you from point A to point B.
right, and we burn a lot of fossil fuels to make solar panels. So okay, let's leave that alone.
Mhm.
Okay, so there's a little something going on in Maricopa County in Arizona that nobody's really talking about. So why don't we get into that a little bit?
Well, let's talk about that. So
Sure.
right now, again, we're reporting what's going on. I have no inside information about what's going on. This is what's been reported. And what's being reported is not a lot of information because, again, mainstream media doesn't want to talk about it unless you clip on to MSNBC and they start saying the world has fallen because Maddow, what's her name? I don't even watch. Try not to watch.
Rachel Madcow.
Matt, yeah, Rachel Maddow.
Oh, she's insane.
She's sounding the alarm.
Well, wait a minute. Wait. She must be doing something right because she's single-handedly beating CNN in the ratings right now.
Oh,
Single-handedly.
If those ratings weren't bundled and they weren't manipulated, but anyway, anyway, but let's seriously, through the actions of concerned citizens, the state Senate, Mark Fincham, who's a state senator, he's actually running now for the Secretary of State. Thank goodness, because they need to clean those elections up. But basically, Mark Fincham and Rudy Giuliani started all of this back in January when he was going to the different states and talking to whatever committee would listen about the irregularities that were occurring. Well, let me now follow to today. This audit, and they're not just recounting things, and they're not just putting it through the machines again, and they're not. This is an audit. This is a examine things, look at the procedures. In medicine, it's similar to quality assurance, to making sure that any procedures that you have or systems in place allow for the right outcomes in terms of health and the right outcomes for procedures that you do. You want your vote to count. You want it to be accurate, and you don't want it to be discounted, right? Everyone, I think that pretty much sums it up. So right now, and there's all kinds of laws, and remember, the Constitution states that any of the laws that have to do with elections are delegated to the state's legislature. Again, we talked about this before, but it's not the governor. It's not the Secretary of State. It's not a judicial agreement because someone gets up there and starts yelling racism, and everyone knows the story about that. All right. So in Maricopa County, they've rented out. They had this entire war memorial type setting because Maricopa County's Board of Supervisors didn't want to open up their facilities to this. They wanted to make it as hard as possible. So they had to truck all these ballots, 2.5 million ballots over to this war memorial. And they gotten 20% done so far. They had to take a break because there was some contractual agreements with the local high schools for their graduations, which is nice. It's nice to see them having some graduations. Meanwhile, anyone can watch this on azaudit.org, and you can see this whole thing. I've watched it, like I was telling you in previous shows. The error rate that you're supposed to not, the acceptable error rate in any election, according to Arizona and other states, is less than 0.0001% error rate. You cannot have 17% error rate, which they're finding right now in this audit. These are preliminary released findings. People are losing their mind on the other side.
So let's get this straight. Let's break it down real easy. So 1 out of every 10,000 is 0.0001, right?
Yep.
Okay. 17% is 17 out of 100,
Yep.
right? So
inaccurate. Just
inaccuracies.
I'm not even going to get into what I mean. Was it adjudicated? Did someone else make a decision for someone?
No, just talking high level.
High level.
60,000 inaccuracies.
Right.
Like black and white decisions, right?
Right. Yep.
So 17 times out of 100, the votes were counted incorrectly.
Yes.
Whereas 1 out of every 10,000 votes is a normal acceptable rate.
Error rate, correct.
Error rate. So let me ask a question. Where'd those 17 out of 100 votes go?
Well, it's interesting you asked that, Alpha, because
and why?
The again, preliminarily, they were talking about servers that didn't have disk drives that would allow people to understand where things went, because the router records everything incoming and outgoing of that computer system. You have the situation. Trying to think, the votes were changed from one delegate, one presidential candidate to another, and even the lower elections, and names were made up, and they're actually going out and canvassing right now. They're going out to ask these people, is this your vote? Is it, or not? Is this your name? Is this your address? Is this correct? Is this address that was registered over here proper? You get what I'm saying. They're doing all of it. And anyone, you can always go to the War Room. Stephen K. Bannon, you can follow him. He has a podcast on it. He talks about this in great detail and has all the people that are involved with this. And that's where I get my information from. It talks about all this. I think it's important that we understand that it's still in process and that this is what is being talked about. And it's not done yet. But there are some pretty significant errors going on right now. We don't know if it's purposeful or not. We don't know why it's happened. They don't even have the passwords to get into some of the servers. The Dominion software, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors knows they're in trouble when they say, well, we don't have any passwords to get into this stuff. We don't know anything about it. And this onion has many, many layers, and we're not even into the outside of this onion. So it's going to get to be pretty intense.
Yeah, it's already, 17 out of 100 errors is bad.
That's just preliminary. They haven't gone through all. They're about 20% of the way through 2.5 million ballots. We'll have to see what happens, but I'm always eager to hear what's going on with it. And there's a lot of people that don't want anything to come of it.
Gee, I wonder why. Curious.
I'm hoping that someone goes to jail over this.
Well, we're gonna have to impatiently sit back and sit on our hands and wait to see what happens here.
That's
unfortunately,
right. Yep.
I think that we have a long road to go down in the Arizona audit, and I just hope that other states, when the results come out, I mean, it's going to take a couple of years to adjudicate all this stuff, and there's nothing that can be done. There's no overturning an election. Nobody's saying that that's going to happen, but this is really bad. This is really bad stuff. I mean, if it's true, it's just horrible.
At least we're seeing now that in order, like when we talk about quality assurance or quality improvement in the medical world, you don't want the same thing to happen to someone else. So they change procedures. They, like I'll give you an example real quick. Surgeries, for instance, people were going to have surgery. People have heard horror stories where they had the wrong kidney taken out, or they had the wrong leg was amputated, or whatever the case is. Mistakes happen. We're all human. I get it, but those are pretty egregious. And they came up with something called a timeout. When you're in the surgery, you identify the patient, you identify the procedure, the nurse. It's like a checklist on an aircraft. When you're getting ready to take off, you say, do we have fuel? Did someone check the fuel and verify the fuel that's in the tank? Yes. Good. okay, let's go. Besides the gauge working, it's the same thing as a timeout doing a medical procedure.
Right.
They come up with these things because of things that happen. The laws are being changed right now. They're getting rid of mail-in ballots. They're being very strict about voter ID. Yep. And everyone is going to expect to see this, but there's also something to say that they say in the war room all the time. One falls, they all fall. Arizona is just the beginning. You're going to see all this happening in other states. Right. And some say again, we just report what I'm being told.
Right.
They have the ability to, if they Biden doesn't belong there, that's another story. We'll have to see what happens. I have no idea.
Well, I don't either, and we're going to have to find out. This is kind of a little bit highly unusual, to say the least. I will say, that in the short term, this whole process has been very painful to watch. Okay, it's very unsettling to me, at least, that there's even a question about elections in this country. We're the last great hope for democracy in the world, and it's just, I don't know what's happening. I don't know. Anyhow, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Time does fly, and we have covered the topics we wanted to talk about. And tomorrow is everybody's least favorite day of the week.
Yep.
Everybody gets to go back to work tomorrow. Fun times, right?
Make more money for the government to waste. There you go.
Yes. Go to work, peasants.
Yep.
Maxine needs a new air marshal.
Yep.
So anyhow, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. Please feel free to visit our website at signal50.com for updates and to check out all of the areas where you can catch us on podcast or on live streaming. Join us on Rumble at Signal50, Parler, Signal50 Podcast. We're on Parler as well. We're pretty much everywhere. We're still kind of waiting to see on the whole Mike Lindell Frank platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's still a one direction platform, but it's very popular. A lot of people go there. I go there a lot.
Yeah.
We're on BitChute also.
Right.
iHeartRadio.
Woohoo!
iHeartRadio. So we appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, we give you the perspective of two American patriots who love to talk about current events. We love to hear what you think. We want to hear what you want us to talk about. And like I said, we come across as two Americans that just want to talk about what's affecting all of us. So,
well, anyhow, everybody, we'd like to thank our affiliate, POF USA, pof-usa.com, makers of the finest AR-15 style rifles anywhere in the world. Then they really are, folks. I'm not even kidding. If you're in the market for an AR-15, that's definitely a place to look. You won't find any ammunition for it on the market just yet, but it's coming. Hang tight. So someday we'll be able to go out and go enjoy that. That and Mark's Guns LLC. Go on over to Mark's Guns LLC. He's based up in Minnesota for all your firearms hunting and shooting needs. Go over to marksgunsllc.com and go see our friend Mark over there. He'll take really good care of you for anything that you need. Other than that, everybody just have a great week and do your best. I know that my week is going to be extraordinarily interesting, and I'm not really looking forward to it.
And don't forget about our airmen, soldiers, and police, fire, EMS, where all you do. We appreciate it. Our frontline medical workers, and of course, I can't say it enough. Firefighters, but they put their lives on the line to protect us and you.
That's right. So. And we'll be coming at you with a new show on Wednesday night. We're going to talk a little bit about our good friend Ted Cruz and some of the work that he's been doing. And I'd really like to talk a little bit about a podcast that I've really been engaged with over the past couple of months that I'm really starting to enjoy, and that's Timcast, Tim Pool, Timcast IRL. Love Timcast.
Mm-hmm. He does a really great job.
He does a really great job. I'd like to talk to him, give a shout out about how he's doing things and some of the people that he has on, and give a plug for his podcast as well. And he's doing really good work over there. So
he's got he's got his own website.
He's got everything.
like I said, we're doing this for free, but he's doing it for money, and
Oh yeah.
support him when you get a chance. He definitely does a great job and gives us a lot of good information also.
Yeah, he does. He's great. He's a great provider of information. All right, everybody out there, stay safe. Pray for the Middle East. Everybody could use it, and keep your heads down. It's just 5 more days till the weekend, people.
Cue in the music, sir.
Thank
Bye.
you. Have a good night.
Again, thanks for listening. This is the end of our Signal 50 transmission.